Hey, welcome to the Ryan Got the Bread podcast, where we talk about real estate, entrepreneurship, business, and a bunch of other stuff that Jessica Gaddy actually usually throws in there. Today I have Precious Morgan, who is a loan officer for, how long have you been a loan officer?
I guess it's coming up on 4 years, like altogether.
About 4 years of experience with a variety of different companies, and we're going to talk about mortgages and finance and credit and all that stuff and some new construction stuff. So how are you doing today?
I am doing fabulously.
And you came from mad far away. I think the drive was like an hour.
Yeah, it is. So it's right outside of Philly, like Delaware County, Drexel Hill.
I appreciate it.
Of course.
And
like a fun show.
Yes. Not as fun probably without Jess, because I am not the fun guy, but I'll try to fill in. So I told you before we started, I want your superhero origin story. Start backwards though, right? So like people don't know what you do or whatever. What do you do presently?
Well, presently I am a loan officer at a Black-owned startup. It's like a mortgage startup. So I guess we're like a broker. So basically it's my boss was a senior vice president at one of the largest mortgage companies. He just like branched out. So it's funny because I had just quit my job at Toll Brothers, which is a larger home builder. It's like the number one luxury home builder. Their average home for their average house price is like $800,000. So that was like really stable, but I wasn't making any money, and I feel like I was just getting duller and duller as I was staying there.
Why weren't you making money?
Because so what they do is they give you like a $45,000 base. You sell you get like $1 million loan, and they pay you like a really small amount. Based off of that, you're putting so much work into it. It's like you're doing tons of different products. These people are self-employed. They have multiple companies. They have multiple brokers and private financiers that they're working with. So you're doing a lot of work for it, but they're not really giving you much because they're banking on the fact that you like the stability of being able to do a 9 to 5 and not work the weekends and
the base.
Yeah,
the
so I
base
mean
pay.
That's great. And for a time, my daughter was really young, so I thought that was better than the previous position where I was working until 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. It wasn't really sustainable. But then she's getting older, and I'm just like, why am I here? Especially because recruiters are calling me and they're telling me all the money that I can make if I was somewhere else doing the exact same thing that I was doing. I got to call.
These loan officer recruiters, man, they'll tell you anything.
No, just the base level. I got a call from Wells Fargo. And I was like, because I didn't really want the job. I'm like, how do you pay? And they're like, yeah, it's 1% of the loan amount. And I'm like, I have $1 million Loans that I was making a couple hundred off of, and I could have got 1%. I was kind of blown away.
True.
So I just kind of quit. I sold solar badly for 4 months.
Wait, you quit without knowing what you were going to do after?
I was going to go do solar.
Oh. Did you get recruited? Why did you want to go?
No, so my mom does solar for the last 4 years.
The leases?
Huh?
The solar leases?
Loans, leases, and called PPA in Philly. So it's the ones where the electric company kind of does it. It's yeah.
I don't have a high opinion of these solar leases. Yeah, they're a scam.
Well, no, the lease is not good. They usually just do loan or the PPA.
Yeah, I think the PPA one's good, right? Because you work with, what is it, with the utility company?
Yeah, and it's based off of your actual usage. So it's all right, if you want to go based off your usage, this is what it is. It's kind of like the regular electric company. And you get a bill. It's the same kind of thing. Okay. The loan is good because, if you want to own your solar. So I was doing that, and I sucked at it. I thought that phone sales would translate well to, door-to-door sales, but I'm, awkward when I'm trying to
Oh, you had to do door-to-door?
It was crazy. And
cringe.
My mom is, really good at it. My mom's, in her 50s. My mom's, really good. They trust her and me. I was it was just weird. I was this is not working.
Why do you think it didn't work?
I just don't think I was that good at it. It is what it is.
And what's the difference between the phone and in-person sales that you think
So they're different tells that you have with people when you're in front of them, different ins that you get. You kind of get them on the phone. You can hear when someone's buying what you're saying and when you should ask for the sale. I don't do that well in person. And then I get awkward and then they get nervous. It just It's like
That's
it's
funny.
just like not turning out well. I think I did one in like 4 months. I had like one sale that went through, and it was only because another guy who's like a manager was like working very closely with me.
Right.
And then I just got a call out of the blue from Craig, from my boss, like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And it's funny because I was supposed to be door-to-door soloing, and I was like in front of my TV, and I was like right now, nothing. And he's like, "All right, I'm coming down your area. You come meet me there." I'm like, "Okay." So I go, and he's like, "I started a mortgage company. Like, I need loan officers." And I'm like, "I just quit being a loan officer." I told my old boss at Toll that I didn't want to be a mortgage anymore because they were like, "Why are you leaving? You're doing so great." And I was like, "You don't pay well enough." And they're like, "Well, no, that's not true." Like they would,
Right.
they're like, "What can we do to keep you? Pay me more." "Oh, no, you should be paid fine." I was like, "All right, yeah, I quit." So,
Dang.
and I had just bought a duplex too. So it's like, I bought a duplex, house hacking. So I have a tenant in the bottom. He's paying most of the mortgage. I also have a garage tenant, which I'm now regretting now that I have this nicer car. So like my out-of-pocket expenses for what I'm paying for my side are not that bad, especially because I got a house that I knew that I could cover the entire mortgage anyway. So it's like a small percentage. Just like I want to start, getting additional properties, so that way I can kind of be a landlord essentially.
So is that was part of your factoring in as like being able to quit because your overhead's low, right? Because you have the duplex that's probably paying most of the mortgage
Exactly.
or whatever.
So
like
yeah, I've already
you got the FU money already kind of like, hey, I don't need this.
Yeah, like I had some cushion. Like I went to Paris, I like went to Jamaica. I was doing all this stuff. So it's like I pretty much set myself up so that my life isn't that expensive. So that way I'm not stressing out. I think that's good and bad on one end. So,
I call it being you get off of defense, right? Like if you're just working and paying bills, especially if your payments are high, you're on defense where like you have to make enough to pay for whatever like your lifestyle is. Mm-hmm. But once you like have money where you can save and you're making a lot more than whatever your expenses are, you can go on offense, you can go investing, you can go on trips, it's like your life, I feel like life changes dramatically if you can switch from defense to offense for sure.
Definitely. So
That's definitely a big thing, which actually, well, let's talk about your duplex. Like, so when did you decide that was something that you wanted to do?
Maybe 3 years ago, I decided that I didn't like the idea of getting a house that I'm just like paying for and I'm not getting anything back for it. It sounds stupid, but I'm just
No, that's like, see, like a lot of people say home ownership and push it. It's at least a valid argument to say, well, like owning a house and living in it isn't the best. It's not an investment per se,
right?
Because you need to live in it. So like you have to pay it. It's not really saving a lot. Mm-hmm. But the duplex, on the other hand, is definitely like an investment.
Yeah, and it felt like a smarter decision. Like it's me and my daughter, and she's 10. I think she was like 7 when I was thinking about this. And I was like, the average person stays in a house like 3-4 years anyway. So it's like, it doesn't make sense for me to have in my mind, I'm buying this forever home, like this huge couple $100,000 house just so I can say we live here, when it's like, what are we getting out of this? There's only 2 of us. I'm probably not going to want to live here in 3 years. So it's like
I try to get through to people that all the time, because for some reason, and I think especially black people think that when you buy a house, you have to live there for 30 years. And they're like, and they throw all these things out. I don't want a mortgage for 30 years, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And I'm like, this is not how you should be thinking about this at all. Like,
exactly.
That's not realistic.
And
but from mortgages, that most people, they're leaving within 3 to 5 years.
Exactly.
On average.
And I actually feel like I had that conversation like with the whole 30 years, and people get all like, oh my God. I've had that conversation in mortgage. So it's like, I remember being at Toll, you have to kind of like get into real conversations with people.
Right.
And kind of find out what they need, also what they want. So I would talk to people like, how long were you in your last house? Oh, we were there for 2 years. Is legitimately a real conversation I had. Oh, you were there for 2 years. Oh, your house before that. Oh, we stayed there about 3 years. I'm like, okay, in this house, we want a 30-year mortgage. I was like, well, your pattern is that you tend to move around a lot. You guys are still the same company. Maybe you should look at doing like an adjustable rate. And they're like, oh my gosh, these are people who are high earners. Mm-hmm. They always moved. I'm like, I know that in your mind you've always thought that this was scary, but this makes sense for you.
That adjustable rate is super scary to people because, the housing crash and everything.
Yeah.
But, like, if you look at it, probably the last what, 10 years? If you were on an adjustable rate mortgage, you probably made out. Yeah, probably adjusted down once or twice. And I mean,
yeah,
how you going to beat that?
Yeah. But that same concept of like, oh my gosh, I can't buy a house. It's scary. And it's 30 years came into different places. So I realized that it makes more sense to buy and also to buy smart, because even if my first house isn't exactly what I wanted, it's not going to be my only house. So I bought in an area where they had solid schools because I have a daughter. And also the houses don't appreciate well. So I couldn't like buy it and sell it in a couple years and then want to make something. It's not going to happen. Right. But they tend to hold their value. And a lot of people want to buy in that area because it's close to Philly, but they can feel like, they have their kids in a better school district. So I was like, okay, this is a solid place to buy. Even my tenant who's there, he's been there for 10 years. Like,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wait, he was there. You like took him over when you bought the property?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So you didn't never even get a new tenant.
I know. I think I'm a little scared too, like to buy my next one. I'm like, all right, I think I got lucky now. Like even during the pandemic, there was no like weirdness. It was just like, he still pays his rent. I'm like, okay, like
that's good.
So far, so good. Yeah. So that's when I decided I wanted to buy a duplex. So I went through Naca. And
oh boy.
Yeah.
I got a lot to say about Naca.
Really? Yeah. Naca's crazy.
But you can big them up first and then I'll tear them down. Go ahead.
Well, it's not even a big up. Naca is crazy, but I wanted a conventional loan and I wanted to put in the cost of like the upgrades into my mortgage and I wanted no PMI. So it was like, and I wanted a good rate and my credit score was just average.
Wait, you did the hand program where you do some rehab in there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't finish it though because my contractor bailed on me, but that's another story. I didn't have anything to do with Naca. It wasn't their fault. But my point is, Naca is not the best, but for me and what I was looking for, I thought it was worth it for me to kind of like go through their BS. I actually didn't get frustrated because I expected the BS.
And you're well equipped to, like, you understand the language of finance, so you can understand what they're doing. You know what underwriting is. You kind of understand why they're doing these things.
And the rate I got with no PMI, I was like, all right, this is worth it. Like, whatever.
Yeah, so you think the loan terms are probably way better than FHA and all that stuff, and even probably conventional, no?
Definitely. So it is a conventional loan. Like my Naca loan is a conventional loan.
Okay.
Now I know, I didn't know this before, Bank of America is the one who actually has
they fund it.
Yeah. So you can actually go through Bank of America if your credit score is a little better. So you got like I don't know, like even a 700 or like something high sixes, you can get the same deal as Naca through Bank of America. It's just that it's without the credit counseling and all that. So if you have a solid score.
But you could do the zero down?
Yeah.
Through Bank of America?
They give you like $7,000. Like they give you money.
Oh, so from my understanding, the reason of that is because they got some court case or whatever.
Yeah, because they sucked. So now they have to do better.
But you know what? They all suck. Like they just got caught. Like they all should be doing that.
Yeah, basically. So yeah, they have a program too. Yeah. Yeah.
I did not know that. So good info there.
Mm-hmm.
So how long from start to end did your Naca process take?
Jeez. It was probably, all right, let me say, in actuality, it was 2 years, but it wasn't really 2 years. It was only 2 years because I knew that they were going to be ridiculous, and I had a gap of employment, so I know they needed a 2-year history. So I came in a year in, and I was like, hey, I know I can't do this until I get 1 more year. What do I need to have ready? I kind of like got the ball rolling.
Right.
But in actuality, I would say when I was really ready, probably 6 months, but I think it took so long because I could not find a house. Like I kept getting, like everybody else kept getting houses over me. I kept losing houses because I was looking for a multifamily. So
that's what I was going to ask you next is negotiating with Naca, right? So what I've been finding is that no one wants to accept a Naca loan, really. Like it's really tough. So like even if someone has an FHA offer that's comparable to yours, they're going to take the FHA one most of the time, because even agents are like, what's Naca? I don't even know what that is, so it's like makes it even more difficult.
So funny, I actually didn't have that problem. It was the reverse. So I had a really good, well, he wasn't really good. He was all right. My agent, he was good when it came down to it, but I found my own house. But anyway.
Was your agent familiar with the Naca program?
Yeah, okay. He was already like a Naca agent. So he would kind of go into it like, hey, so the people that I lost deals, like houses to, they were cash. But my house, there were 8 offers, but I was the only conventional offer, even though it was Naca. So I got the house.
Oh.
And I just went for asking. By that time, I was just like, forget this.
I try to look. This 2020 has been crazy. So like, the housing market, at least in our area, is on fire here in South Jersey. And if you pay list price, you're probably lucky at this point. And I try to explain this to clients, and they're like, no, we want to negotiate. And I'm like, okay, well, they're going to tell you to F off.
I know.
Even if you're like 5 or 10 below list, they're not even going to think about you ever
so
again.
like, no, we weren't even doing it. I saw a house one day. It was like, oh, it's great. I saw it at 6 o'clock at night. I was like, yeah, let's go for it. But the next day he was like, yeah, cash buyer already got it. It's gone. Because it's like everybody was looking for it, especially multifamilies. It was like, my house was on the market for 5 days. There were 8 offers. The fact that I got it, I was like, what? Like, really?
I know, right? By then you're like surprised.
Yeah.
So
like, whatever.
So another thing with house hacking on the duplex, especially because you have a daughter, is finding a house that is acceptable for you to live in and the numbers work at the same time. Did you have trouble doing that?
No, so I didn't really know. Like, I knew how the numbers worked in theory, but like I have a friend who's like a real estate investor. He has like multiple properties, so I actually had him kind of like do like the bigger pockets, like, you know, calculation for me, because it's like I did that and it looked like it made sense, and then he did it and he's like, yeah, this is a good deal. So it was a little smaller than I wanted, but it had like 2-bedroom, and it was like all that stuff that I needed in terms of like space for she and I, even though she thinks that, she says I have a walk-in closet for a bedroom. I'm like, shut up. You have a full-size bed in there. Like, you're lucky.
But so was it a convert it into a duplex? Because a lot of the Philly like multis are like a row home, and then they'll convert upstairs.
Well, it's a row home, but I think that I don't know. No, it's a true duplex, but
nice.
I don't know. Like, I know it's zoned that way and everything, but I don't know if that's how it started off. But I did see some that were like, the conversion was ridiculous. Like, you go upstairs and it was literally, you could tell that it was like, this is 4 bedrooms and they just made one a kitchen. It still even looks like a bedroom.
Right.
They just like put a stove.
That's what I run into a lot. And, you know, it's like most people don't like that, you know, because it's janky, right? Like the layout doesn't make any sense. And,
mine, it's small, but the layout still makes sense. It's like kitchen, living room, dining room, bath, like all that stuff is still intact and it's like normal. And I also have like a corner house. So it's a little bit bigger than the other row houses.
Nice.
So, and I have like a huge yard and everything. So that's been really good. So it's like the other ones that I saw, I thought were a lot better, but I didn't get those. Everybody else thought they were better too. Like
I think it's good. You had a good attitude about it. Like you were going into it with like, because I feel like people want to buy their dream home as their first property. And it's like, this is not realistic.
Exactly.
Like, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that prevents a lot of people from doing stuff.
Yeah. I think that first one that I saw definitely was the ideal. It was like split level, like you go in and it was like a downstairs and upstairs, and you go to the next one, it's a downstairs, and it was so great. It had 2-car garage. I was like, yes. It was like, no, the cash buyer said yes too.
Yeah,
it's like
can't compete with the cash buyer.
No, it was done, but this one was good. So I'm pretty good with it. I don't think I'm gonna be there for more than a couple of years.
What's your plan?
So now I don't. Initially, my plan was going to be to keep my Naca mortgage. I know I'm saying this on recorded. You're not supposed to do this.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You're not supposed to.
Oh, yeah, I'm not going to move out.
Technically, you have to refinance it.
Technically, but the crazy thing is rates are starting to get really low, so I might refinance it anyway.
There you go.
Like, right now, my loan to value is a little too tight that I wouldn't refinance it because I would have to refinance into PMI, and that's ridiculous.
Right.
But honestly, realistically, I can probably, if it makes sense, I can probably just buy that down.
It's that close.
Yeah.
Basically, the loan to value is how much equity, or the opposite of the equity in the property.
Right. So when I reach that 20% equity position, I will probably just refinance it anyway if things stay the way they are, because right now rates are like 2.99, 2.875. I can get that. So, and I had a 3.875, which I was bragging about to the office when I got it because the average rate was like 4.25. So I was like, look at me. I did not buy it down. I'm glad I didn't too. It's funny because my real estate agent was like, you should pay points to buy it down. And mind you, I'm in mortgage. I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
Never makes sense in this market.
For this one, it didn't make sense. Yeah, it doesn't. It makes sense sometimes. Like if you're buying a multi-million-dollar house and that difference of you paying a 1/4 point is a big deal, then you should do it. But
that makes sense.
Yeah, especially because the house, I wasn't buying an expensive house. I'm like, no, I'm not going to buy it down. 3.875 is phenomenal. And he was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, and then you just refinance later, you know?
Right.
And refinances are pretty cheap now most of the time, so it's not a big deal.
And as a conventional refi, I might even be able to get away without getting an appraisal, so that's good. So
that's nice.
That's probably what I'm going to do.
Very cool. So Naca was not you're prepared to deal with the headache. So
Yeah.
it might be a headache for some people, but you knew what you were
They
getting
kind of
into.
sucked. I think that my counselor, like they fired. It's funny. So while I was going through my NACA process, I had one loan counselor, and they knew that I was a loan officer. So like she would look at my paychecks and be like, "Wow," it's like they pay them like nothing. So like I know people complain.
That's
about
why
them a
they
lot.
don't know what they're doing.
They pay them nothing, and they are not licensed. They didn't pass the SAFE exam. They were
Them
asking
people don't
me,
know a damn
yeah,
thing.
they were asking me tips for how to pass the SAFE exam, and like, and I would have to like tell them things. Like they'd be like, "Oh, this isn't right." I'm like, "No, because this and this and this is the compensating factor for this, this, this." They're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, great." I'm like, "All right, cool."
Oh
So
my goodness.
that's serious. And then at one point, they like fired everybody in the office. So like my loan counselor called me, and she's like, "Yeah, you know." She was telling me that I had an appointment when they were about to fire them. So she was telling me what happened, and it was BS. But she was like, you think I can maybe use you as a reference?
Oh my goodness.
I was like, or you can call me with any, like, I don't know, I guess. And yeah, and then there was just one guy who was the only counselor. He's a great guy, actually. He was actually really knowledgeable, but I think they were like, he's knowledgeable. He could handle all the loans in office. Like, he had a heart attack in the middle of the process. Like, it was like, oh, he's out of office. He had a heart attack. And then he was back in like 2 weeks.
This is my biggest problem with NACA is that the counselors actually don't know anything. Like,
they don't.
I know, like, I'm not being arrogant, but I know a lot more than what these counselors are talking about.
They don't know anything.
Like, and then they're using their own proprietary language about stuff with NACA. Like, they're using their own terms that only they know in the office. Like, because we were trying to do a rehab one, and like they're throwing out, and it was just the biggest mess of all time.
Really?
So I had a client, she was using the NACA program, and she was going to rehab a property and convert it into a duplex. I guess this is a bit complicated. Well, the property was already a duplex, technically, in with the township permits and everything, but a lot of the stuff had to get converted. But they make you get a home inspection, a certified NACA home inspector, and they make you address every single item on there, which is not a realistic thing. Like, some stuff is just how the house is, or it's older property. Yeah. And then they came up with a budget of like $175,000 for the rehab. And I'm like, this is a $75,000 rehab. You guys are nuts. And then they did an appraisal. It appraised short. And then like they wanted to let us appeal it, like, cause they didn't know. Like, it took a month. It took over a month for them to respond to us asking for them to appeal it, just for them to say no. And it was just a whole clown show. And I just feel bad because the client gets screwed over. Just like in your case, like, they fire the people in the office. And if you're trying to get a loan through, like, these people are getting fired and they don't know what's going on. And so you get screwed. And, you know, if you're planning a move, it's a disaster. So
You're totally right. And I think luckily I was staying at my parents' house. So it was like, I didn't have like this, like, you got to get out by this time. I was like, my parents have a 4-bedroom house. Everybody was gone except for my youngest brother. So it was like, I was fine. Like, but I will say my real estate agent already told me, like, when we got started, he was like, don't pick anything that needs a huge rehab. NACA is not good for that. If it's like a quick kitchen job, yeah. But if it's like, do this and do that, he's like, it's not going to work. So we're just going to stay away from that.
Disastrous. And I was really upset because they're playing with people's lives. And they're just ignorant and they don't care. And, you know,
they don't know.
Like, oh,
but
well,
I think it's the NACA program as a whole. And I think that happens with a lot of like non-profit type places.
They don't have the experience. They don't know how to close loans.
And the competency. They don't have it. Like, and it's not even the counselor's fault. When you see what they're doing, they overwork them and they pay them like pennies.
That's why it took them forever to respond, because she has too many files. So like, they just couldn't respond. I get, like, it's not the ground level person, it's the whole infrastructure there that have a big beef with them.
Like, when they quit, they fired everybody and had this one guy. He actually is a good guy, but like, you would talk to him, he'd be like, this because he's carrying the entire office.
Right.
And they had like these people that were basically like, I guess you would call junior loan officers, like, who were just doing like paperwork, but he still had to like do everything.
And that's the nonprofit world stuff. Like, those people are not really qualified to do what they're trying to accomplish there.
Right. They were like, do you want to come on? I was like, oh yeah, no.
But I feel like the end result there is that you actually hurt people more. Like, because my buyer kind of got screwed. Like, she was planning to move into the property. She was months into the process, and the house was under contract. and everything. And, you know, she paid for an engineer. She paid for a home inspection. She paid for the appraisal. No, I'm sorry. Naca paid for the appraisal. But, you know, they made her pay some money for due diligence, and then they just, like, ghosted for like a month. So the end result can actually be worse, even though they mean well and all that stuff. So that's my beef with Naca.
No, it's very, it's actually very legitimate. And that's also, even when I went into it, I was kind of already knowing, okay, this is going to be crazy. Let's try to make this as simple as possible. So even now when I said, like, my kitchen didn't get done and I put that in, it was because I hired a contractor, and then he just decided he wasn't good. He's like, yeah, no, I think I'm not going to do any Naca stuff. I don't know. It just seems like a lot. But he like didn't communicate with me. I'm like, we're supposed to be like cool. Like, you just say, hey, I decided I'm not going to do this. Let me know. Not, hey, I'm going to start doing X, Y, Z, and I'll get back to you. And then I'll hear from you for a month. That
happens with like the 203K too, where the contractor just is not equipped to deal with the paperwork requirements of, you know, the NACA or 203K or whatever.
Yeah, I'm like, you could have just said something.
I know, he just
like disappeared,
ghosted away.
And then I had some work that I needed to have done, like just that I was just going to pay for.
Right.
And then I had called him initially, like, hey, you know, I was initially going to have this included in my NACA stuff. Is there any way that you could do that one thing for me? He was like, oh no, but then he called back, hey, could you do it? I'm like, yeah, no, I hired somebody else. I just paid them, but thanks. He was like, wow. Oh.
So what happened? So you had $7,000 set aside for the kitchen within the NACA loan?
It's in my mortgage, yeah.
And then he just ghosted.
Ghosted. He's like, yeah, I'm going to go to Home Depot tomorrow. I'm going to get this and that, get this and that. Yeah, you can go ahead and order your appliances. Oh, God. So I have like my washer. I mean, not my washer. My new stove and like all the stuff that we like chose and like did all the measurements for in boxes. And he just decided he just wasn't.
So what are you doing?
I don't want to say this. I had to find somebody new. My mom was like, this is what happens when you try to hire one of us. We just.
Oh, no.
I was like, don't say that, Mom.
That's a tough thing. Well, I have that thing because I always try to hire black contractors.
Yeah.
I don't think, I don't think it's that really.
I think it's contractors in general.
Contractors are the devil.
I've heard that they're flaky. I've heard all of that stuff. So I'm like, all right.
Trust me, I know.
So now I just haven't, because the thought of not having a kitchen when I'm like in there is kind of like, because before I wasn't there yet. So it's kind of like whatever.
Right.
I was still at my parents because I wanted everything to be done before I got there, but it didn't work out. So I just moved in. So now I'm just like, my kitchen works. It's just not up to date like I want it. Like it's fine.
I tell people this too, though. Like once you live somewhere, you just get used to it.
Yes.
Like, people are worried about the colors of the cabinets and shit when they're buying it. But look, once you move in, you be like, this works. Put the cereal up there.
I have that 1970s yellow laminate. I was like, whatever.
It works. Like, because then when you think I have to pay $7,000 to make this look nicer, then you're like,
the crazy thing is, it's not even the money. It's the thought of like hiring somebody who might flake on me in the middle, and then I'm like, no kitchen. Yeah, and I'm just like, oh my God, like I can't bake this cake. I can't do anything. Like that is freaking me out. So it's like, I might just move out and then do that.
So how did you get into being a loan officer, and then how did you also like start? Now you're an investor.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like, it's not like a normal story. Like everything kind of just like fell in my lap. So getting into being a loan officer and even knowing anything about mortgage at all, I was living in Philly. That's where I'm from.
What part?
I was living in Germantown. It's like Germantown, East Falls area.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just got accepted into a master's program for data analytics. And I was like, this is going to be more expensive than I want to pay. And I was one of those people that got lucky. I kind of got out of college without much student loan debt.
Where'd you go to school?
Haverford College.
Okay.
In PA, it's like $40,000 a year. So it's like, I didn't really have any student loan debt from that because I got in and I had like basically a full ride.
Nice.
So I'm looking at this like grad school financial aid thing, and it's like $30,000 in loans. And I'm just like, it's kind of hard to go into student loan debt when you don't already have it. I feel like people who already have undergraduate debt, they don't think anything of it when they like add 40 more. But I'm looking like, I'm going to go for my like $5,000 student loan debt. And I like did all this travel and study abroad, and I'm going to take all this debt on.
What were the people around you telling you at that point?
You mean like parents?
Yeah. Like what advice were you getting when you came to that decision?
Well, my parents' advice, like even when I went to college, was to stay away from student loans.
Really?
Yeah, because they were the first generation. Like I wasn't a first generation college student. I was a second. So my mom has student loans that she's never paid and she never plans to. But she's like, stay away from that. Go to the school that gives you the most money. Like, that was the plan, like, from the beginning. And then she's like, there are 3 of you. We're not broke enough for you to go to school for free. So you better get a scholarship or something. That stuck in my mind. I was like, okay, so I became like a straight A student in like high school. So when I got into Haverford, it was my dream school, but it was really expensive. But luckily they had like a need blind policy. And they had a policy back then where they didn't give any loans. So any debt, any aid that they gave you was always grants. So it's like the first year I got like $38,000. And then it's like, so they would I just had grants. And I had like these little scholarships that I did too, like on the side. So going from that and only taking out student loan debt to do like study abroad at like Temple in the summer, it's like I couldn't justify going for this graduate degree that I kind of didn't really want. I kind of just was going to do it because I was unemployed. I had like, I forgot where I was before that. I had lost my job at like a small firm that I was working at because it kind of ran out of work for me.
A farm?
Firm.
Oh. I'm like, you were working.
It was like an accounting and investment firm. So I was doing like retirement plan services and like, mutual funds and things like that. But it was like a really small office. And I had gotten into this like niche of like retirement plan services and 403Bs for this like charter school book that they had like got on. But they kind of underestimated what the people would need because most people don't know anything about their retirement account. So like I wasn't being used. I would like go out to these schools and talk to them about their mutual funds. And they're like, can I just set like a 20/60 fund or whatever? Like that was like the end of the conversation. So I was at home trying to decide what I'm going to do about this whole graduate school thing. And I got a call from Freedom Mortgage. They're like, oh yeah, we're looking for people who, first they thought they were going to try to do the first flyers, but they were like, oh yeah, you've been out of college a little longer. You can do this fast track thing. I was like, all right. So that's like how I got into mortgage. It was like random.
You just got recruited.
I just got randomly recruited.
But your previous experience was in sort of in the financial world. What was your degree in?
English.
In English? In English? So why'd you pick the English? Why'd you go to school for English?
So the plan was, I went to a liberal arts school. So I was planning to be a doctor. Mm-hmm. So you can't major in pre-med at Haverford. You have to pick an actual like degree program and then just take the pre-med requirements. Okay. I know a lot of people did that. Like people have like degrees in religion and then they became, a surgeon or whatever. Okay. Because so the plan was English. And then I started taking science classes and I like sucked and I was like crying. I always talk about how my college boyfriend was my chem tutor because we spent so much time together. Like he was my tutor first. We would always be together because I really just did it because I really sucked. So it's like I really needed to be around him all the time because I needed like 1 + 1 is 2 kind of instructions for chem. Even though I got like straight A's in chem in high school because I went to a crappy high school. But crappy high school, really good college. It's like I did not have the skills to translate, so I had to build it up. Yeah.
What high school did you go to?
Ben Franklin in Philly.
Okay.
Straight A student. Didn't mean anything. I was stressing out my first year of college. I was having like heart palpitations and breaking out because I was like,
feel prepared.
How the hell that? My principal at my high school told me that he didn't prepare us. They didn't prepare me for Haverford.
Dang.
He literally said that. Like
that's why everybody in Philly sends their kids to private school. Huh?
Yeah, I sent my kids to private school when we lived in Philly. That's how it goes. So yeah, I just kind of fell into that. So I got out of school and I decided I didn't want to be a doctor because I sucked at science. And you can't. It's bad luck to have like money on the floor. It is. It's bad luck to have like your purse on the floor.
Oh,
it means
yeah,
that money can go away from you. I don't know if it's true, but who cares? So so I got out of college and then I started working at like this company called Chrysler Financial. And this is in 2008 when like the whole crash happened.
The worst time of all time to try to get a job.
Essentially. So that company's like out of business now, but I was doing like collections.
Oh, goodness.
But it was actually pretty solid. Like they had like a company car program. It was a really cool company to work for, like especially right out. So I kind of got into that. Then I got into like a sale. And then I worked at a school. Then I worked at I had like a sales job. I did a lot of stuff like within a short period of time for me to like 4 years is like the longest that I've been in some kind of industry. And when I was at Toll Brothers for like 2 years, that was like the longest I've been in the company because I usually don't like jobs.
We have that in common because I've never worked anywhere more than 12 months.
Yeah, like I don't like job. Like the thought, like, and even when I left Toll Brothers, because it was so daunting. It was like the corporate culture is like BS. It was just like I felt like I was being suffocated.
Yeah, is it the job or like dealing with the people that?
It's the job. It's any job, pretty much. The job that I'm at now, I think is the best, but it's probably because it's not the same. It's like we have a lot more autonomy. Like I don't feel like I'm being micromanaged and like, oh, these are your stats for this week, and what do you?
Right.
So
they leave you alone.
Yeah, it's a lot more organic, especially because like my boss only hires people that he feels like confident about. Like he kind of has to know them a little bit before he even brings them in.
So you already trust your judgment
yeah,
and stuff. So they're not like worrying about what you're doing. They know you're going to get the job done.
Yeah,
That's
and it's like
leadership.
Right, and the leadership is more like direct mentoring because he knows who you are as a person. So it's not just like,
oh man,
here's the things of culture for the company. You need to follow this. It's like real. This is what you're like. This is what I think will help you.
Man, that sounds great. And, you know, I always think about this as like I'm trying to scale the business is like what kind of leadership and what kind of organization we're building. And that means, you know, that's probably how I want to operate for sure. Because I hate working for everybody and I don't want to crush anybody's soul with red tape and, you know, just impersonal. Like people are so impersonal, like corporate America.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's just,
like they don't care. They literally don't care. Like they just want you to sit in your chair and do your job and be quiet.
Exactly.
That's terrible.
And smile and then write a good review. Because like I always worked for these companies that were like top places to work. And I was like, I realized it wasn't the company. It was like all of it.
Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah. So this is the first place that I've been where it's like, all right, this is like a place. Like this is like real. And it doesn't feel like, oh my God, I want to work somewhere else. Maybe it's look for the job. Yeah.
What? Oh, yeah, well. Yeah, I got you.
The black.
Sorry, Kyle's producing the show on the side telling me what to say. No, we got to set you up a mic. He wanted me to ask, which I always ask, you know, especially like being more mature in your business and everything, and I'm sure you have networks of people. Do you feel like extra responsibility as a black person in an industry where there's really not a lot of black people in it? And I actually think like, you know, the general consensus is that we have even worse financial education than the average American, which is still bad, but we are even below that. Do you feel like an extra responsibility to like share that information or help people, or like how do you approach the job with that? And like, when you have black clients, do you feel a little bit differently about it? I don't know. Like,
so I definitely feel more responsibility, but I don't think it manifests in any way. So when I'm talking to different clients, like black clients versus, you know, whoever else, I feel like my whole way of going into it stems from like my last position where I kind of had to know the person and kind of like learn them. So I feel like I'm very big on educating them. And I do feel like a lot of African Americans, we don't really know what it's like to buy houses or like have basic like financial intelligence about different things. So it's like I definitely make sure that I kind of take it step by step with that, like, and I make sure that I have those checking questions. Because, you know, you can have a PhD in whatever, in social science, and you're buying this house, and you have no idea what's going on. I'm like, oh, you know, your DTI, blah, blah, blah. Like, nobody knows what that means.
right.
It's also like your debt to income ratio, which is the amount of monthly debt that you have versus like on your credit report, like those things, versus your income. They're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So it's like, I try to make sure that I'm giving them that information, and also try to make sure that I'm letting them know what actually makes more sense for them. So even when we talk about like, oh, FHA, I actually try not to go FHA if I don't have to, but it's also because I got out of doing so many FHA products when I was doing like working at Toll Brothers. So it's like people are paying PMI and MIP and they don't even realize what it is. They're paying this extra money every month and they don't even know what it is. They're putting all this money into their house and then they have this equity position that they're not even aware of, and they're just throwing money at the bank because they bought their house for a 3% down. It's like, I want people to have more say-so in their finances, and even with their house. Like, the bank's not doing you a favor. You need to stop feeling like they're doing you a favor and feeling so committed. If you can get something better that works for you, you should do that. And it's like, I feel like a lot of us don't know that. We feel like lucky that we got this house. And that's like,
that is the attitude there. Like, oh, thank goodness they gave it.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a 6%, but they gave it to me back when nobody else would. Like, who?
Yeah, that's not a favor. This is loan sharking.
Exactly. So it's like giving people that education. I definitely think that that's a big thing in our community. And also, this sounds bad. Like, I don't know how to. This is something that I just realized recently.
Keep it real.
So I feel like a lot of people have this idea that someone's out to get them when they have some money. Like so sometimes when someone's going to buy a house, they'll have these complaints about what the mortgage company, like they can't get a loan. They'll be like, it's because I'm black or something like that. And I'm like, I know you don't realize this, but like since 2015, a lot of rules have been put in place. So it's like some things are really cut and dry. It's not just about you make $200,000, but you have like $100,000 in debt that you pay. It's like some people don't seem to be open to realizing that sometimes there's a deeper reason for something, and maybe they should dig into that and not just necessarily get on the defense of like, this loan officer is asking me for a letter of explanation for all these bills that I didn't pay because he's racist. I'm like,
right. And it's like, that's not how that works. Like, in the mortgage industry, like a lot of stuff you don't even have control of. Like, you have to get this stuff done. So it's not even, they don't have the judgment to even be able to do that. Right. Really. But like you said, choosing the loan product is probably where you can help people out, because they might get led down FHA because people think they don't have money.
And they have like $50,000. Like, oh yeah, I got all this money right here. Oh yeah, I got a 780 credit score. And like, why did you do that? Because they said it was good. Case in point, my cousin bought a house last year. I'm actually looking to do her refinance now. Great credit score. She had really good income. She was putting down like 5%. So her loan officer gave her like no guidance. She was okay. Here's an FHA option and here's a conventional option. My cousin's like, what the hell is this mean? Like, which one's better? So, of course, she sends it to me, and I'm not her loan officer, but I'm like going through everything. So I'm asking her questions. How long do you think you'll stay in this house? What do you think you're going to do to this house? What do you think? So I got her into a conventional product because she's actually right now, she bought this house last year. I'm looking to see if I can get her out of her mortgage insurance already. Right. Meanwhile, because she got a new kitchen, new bathroom, bought a new roof. Like, she did all this stuff to this house, and the area is getting better. So she's like this close. And her rate's going to go from like a 4.125 to like a 3.25. So it's like, if she would have stayed in an FHA product and we kept her there, you're going to have mortgage insurance forever. So it's like you're paying this extra money that you're just throwing out of the window because you don't know any better. So it's like there's not a lot of guidance being given to people of why maybe you should choose another option. It's not always just about the dollar amount, because the conventional product might have looked like it costs like $5 more. And you're like, oh, no, I'll take this other deal. But it's like, no, that's not really a better deal. It depends on who you are.
What do you think the solution is for that? Because how would people know about, certain stuff seems complicated, but other stuff seems kind of basic. So like, what do you think the responsibility is of the individual to know what they're getting into versus like the people doing the mortgage for someone? Yeah. Like, what do you think?
So that's hard. Because like I said, even when you take like, race out of the play, people who are just, they could be really smart. Like I said, having a PhD. I've talked to people, like I told her, first time home buyers, and, they made like $300,000 together.
They don't know.
They didn't know anything about money. They're like, one guy's like, I'm an engineer and I understand a lot of complex topics, but I will tell you, I don't know what any of this means. So it's like, honestly, it might be just, making sure that you do your due diligence when you're looking for like a company or a loan officer, because it's like, you want to make sure that that person is actually giving you the information that you need, because you're not always going to know. Like, I actually always tell my borrowers, don't feel bad that you don't know what I'm telling you. If this sounds daunting, let me know. I said, I actually have to do education in this. We already know that you're super smart. This is not intuitive information.
Right.
Like,
it don't make no common sense.
Right. It doesn't make any sense.
Most of this stuff, yeah.
So I actually, for one of my refinances, I was able to get a customer who's already working with somebody else because I'm the one who gave him real information. Like, I told him why XYZ. He told you this because XYZ. So he ended up going with me instead, even though mine actually cost a little bit more. But it made more sense.
Well, that education can save people tens of thousands of dollars by making the right decision.
Yeah, so it was basically going from a jumbo to a conforming product. He had to just like pay like $5,000 out of pocket. But it's like,
right, and that's the crazy thing. Like, some loan officers won't recommend that when they won't even notice it. Like, oh, you pay $5,000 more, you save, $20,000 over the life of the loan by going from jumbo to regular.
Yeah. But I don't even think that they're doing it because they're being malicious. Some people think
they just don't know.
Yeah, they'll be like, "Oh, you just want me to have a higher loan amount." I'm like, it's not that serious.
Well, that's the other issue is the pushback when you actually are trying to, like, you know, maybe push them into a different direction because it's probably financially better. If they don't trust you, then it's like, then now they're like vetting, why would you make me do a bigger down payment, or why would you make me go FHA or pay mortgage insurance?
Yeah.
So that's tough too. But I guess maybe to answer my own question, I mean, for now, I think people need to select their loan officers better because some loan officers are just like, we worked at Freedom Mortgage. I mean,
it's like
they didn't know it. You know, to work there, you didn't need to know anything. You didn't. So if you had to adjust the loan, you know, to benefit someone more, they wouldn't even know how to do that because they don't know, hey, this program, they qualify for this program over here that might be a little bit better. Or if they put more down, now their PMI is lower or whatever.
Right.
So I guess the advice to the people is pick your loan officer better, and maybe don't just pick off a referral. Like, because a lot of people, like, their loan officer they got the house. So that's like 10 out of 10. But that's not all of, like, did they explain, like, what's happening and what's going on and give you options?
Yeah.
You know? What should someone ask? Oh, that's a good one. So what are the things people should ask when they're, like, looking to buy a house and they're talking to a loan officer?
I don't even think that it's necessarily what should they ask. I think it's more so what should they reveal. I think that it's really important to kind of lay out what you're looking for and, like, what your experience is. Like, hey, you know, this is our first time buying a house. We're looking to have this house, you know, until our kids are like a certain age, you know, so long term. I really feel like people should let people know what they're looking to do. Because I might have one recommendation if you're looking to do this short term, and another if you think this is really your forever thing, or another if you guys are 26, and another if you guys are 72. Because I'm gonna be real with you. So I mean, I think that it's not even necessarily what question should you ask; it's more what information should you give, and then see what that person gives back to you. Because if they're just trying to give you, and it's like we talk about, you know, when we started at Freedom, I always say I didn't even become a loan officer at Freedom. I was like an order taker. It was like, all right, this is the bucket pricing. I didn't know how to read a rate sheet. I didn't know how to, I remember, the DTI needs to be under here when I got to tow. And I was like, oh crap, what's that again? Like,
I do think you're giving people too much credit though, because like you are really smart person and a really good critical thinker. So if they lay out their lifestyle to you, you'll be able to manipulate that information into figuring out what they should do. I don't know if everyone's able to do that.
Yeah, I think you're right. So you're right. So I don't know.
You know, because I feel like a lot of people, especially like people would think having more experience, like if someone has 20 years experience versus someone with 5, that the 20-year person's better. But I actually think like they get stuck in their ways. Like they want to do the FHA loan that fits this criteria so that they don't have any compensating factors and they don't have any issues that they're going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
You know, and I think like people on the bubble always have trouble. Like if you're barely qualifying, like some loan officers will tell you you're not qualified, but you actually could qualify if, you know, you did this one thing, you pay off your car or you do something, and they don't even give people the option.
Because they think they can't do it.
And then people are walking around thinking they can't qualify, but no one really like took the time to figure it out. Now, the issue is you get paid less because they're probably buying a cheaper property and it takes more time. But
yeah,
that's a tough thing about the industry, too.
That is, you're right. And that's a good point, too. Some people just don't see that. Yeah. I don't know.
You just got to get a good loan officer.
That's what you would do. It's not what everybody's done.
Yeah,
I have another question, though. When did that become your interest? Like, when did you become interested in finance and you know, because you have a wealth of knowledge about that.
Mm-hmm.
But when did it happen? When did you shift from English pre-med to this?
I don't know. I feel like it was kind of organic. That sounds weird, but it's true. Like, I literally went from thinking I was going to be a doctor to, like, junior year being like, I don't think this is going to work out. Senior year being like, what am I going to do? We're going into recession. Let's just get the first job available. And it was like Chrysler Financial. I didn't learn anything about finance. It was a collections job. Next job was at a school.
You do, though, a little bit, probably.
Not really. I learned about how to avoid a repossession.
Like, was it her family? Was it like, you know?
No, like my mom's in solar sales now, but this is a good point. I went into sales. My mom and I both had the same kind of experience. So like I had got laid off from my position as I was an assistant dean of students at a charter school. And it was like a new charter school, like, you know, new company. So it turns out they didn't have the money for assistant deans, like, period. So every assistant dean, it was like, you know, it. So my mom like met this lady who was like doing those free, you remember those Obama phones? Like those government phones?
I think I remember you telling me something about
Yeah, so I'm just like at home, like applying to grad schools, trying to like make my connections. And, you know, I had my kid, I was a roommate. I had my friends were roommates with me in like a place down near Temple. It was like a bad neighborhood. But anyway, I'm like at home doing that. My mom was like, oh, I met this girl. She's doing these free phones. And I'm just like, well, I mean, my unemployment is about to run out. Like, maybe I'll see what that is, if it pays something. So I go and I meet this lady, and she's just like, yeah, you know, we're doing the free phones. You know, you get a free phone. You know, if you do 10 phones, you get $100. And I'm like, wait, if I give people 10 free phones, I get $100. She's like, yeah. And she's going with her. I said, so if I give 50 people 50 free phones in one day, I get $500 that day. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, shit. Like, what? I get what? Like, to me, that sounded like big money. Like, I could make a ton of money giving people free phones. But, like, it's really a sales job because people don't believe things that are too good to be true. So it's like I set up connections with, like, supermarket owners. So that way, like, between the 1st and the 15th, which when people got food stamps, because I need them to be, low income, I was, like, set up outside of the supermarket, like, free phones, like, free phones.
Wow.
I learned to hustle. Like, I was getting their information as they were putting their groceries in their car. Like, I already have one. I'm like, oh, well, your son's right there. You want to know when he gets home from school. You should get this free phone. Okay, free phone.
Dang, you're wasting the government's money just giving out free Obama phones.
They were qualified for it. They were qualified. And, that's like, funny. There would be all these people. So it's like, that's when my mind started kind of switching to like salesy. And then like after that, my brother had just graduated with a finance degree. So my younger brother. And he was like, oh, I just got this interview at Vanguard and I think you would be good for this. And I was like, all right, because I didn't really want to do free phones all day. Like I was like, I have this degree from this top college. It's like one of the top liberal arts colleges in the country and I'm doing free phones. So like, even though I was making pretty good money, I was making more money than I was making as an assistant dean. Even though it sounds better, but I would see people and I would be like, oh snap, like I know that I'm over here with like free phones. They're like, oh my gosh, what happened? Did you lose your job? It was kind of embarrassing. It's funny because now I'm like over that. I don't even care. I don't care about my title. I don't care about the money. But I was like, oh yeah, all right, I'm gonna go for this Vanguard thing. So I got hired at Vanguard and they're like, congratulations, it sounds so great. Vanguard, everybody's all impressed. But I was making like $35 and I was $35,000 a year.
And crushing your soul.
Yeah, and crushing my soul. Like, I remember my manager, like, they would clock you down to the minute. I could not stand it. Like, you get a 30-minute lunch break. And he was like, one day, he was like, okay, you know, you're doing a great job. But, like, here I see you clocked in at, like, 12:29 and 50 seconds. And here it was 12:29 and 56 seconds. So, you got to be careful so you don't push over into that extra minute. And I was like, are you serious?
Oh my!
Are you serious? I was like, I need to get the hell out of here. And then people will keep saying things to me like, one day when you're running this company, or like somebody like you is going to run this company, or somebody like you is so smart. And I would always say, why are they saying that? I'm not even showing you anything. Like I'm literally just doing the order taker job. I am not putting more into this. I don't feel like I'm giving this my all. But if this is all that you expect, this is all that I will give you because
that's nuts. Me
giving you more will not make me more. And I knew this when a guy that I was working with. Right. And there was this guy that I was working with who he was great. Like he was doing the same job as me. He was doing like, these lunch and learns, like teaching people new skills and like all this stuff. And then he got a promotion. And they wanted him to get his Series 7 license. So he studied for it. He did great. And now he can do stocks and everything. He goes over. And I said, well, how much? We were pretty close. So I was like, well, how much are they paying you more? It was like $3,500. That was my like end of the line. I was like, oh, yeah, I quit.
Corporate America.
So I think that's kind of how it happened. It was like like steps of things that happened and things that fell into my lap. And like, so.
Yeah, it's funny. Most people have a similar answer like that, which it's weird. It's hard for me to relate because I had a plan this whole time.
You had a plan?
Yeah, so my plan since like high school, for some reason, I had it in my head to have rental properties because it made sense where it's like a money tree. If you have a rental property, you get paid and you don't really do anything per se.
Mm-hmm.
So that idea was stuck in my head forever. So I joined the military. The plan was use the GI Bill to pay for school because I didn't want school debt. Why did I even think that? I didn't even, like, school debt, why did I even think about that? I don't know because I didn't even have any concept of what school debt even was, but I knew I didn't want it. I don't know why. No, my parents didn't really even talk to me about this stuff, so I don't even know why I had that idea in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So did the military 4 years, got out, and then went to school. The only thing that didn't work out was that was 2010, and there were like no jobs because I was in IT. So I was planning on making $100,000 a year and getting an IT job with my great military experience, even though we didn't get IT certifications and stuff like that you need to get the job. So I was like back to entry level, whatever. So I basically just, dang, I got lost. I forgot my whole life story.
2010.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah. So the only thing that didn't work out is I didn't get my job that I wanted to get. That what I was going to use the money to buy rental properties and do all that stuff. So I had to take the long road. I got my real estate license and started doing that. Then I started working like you at a couple different places. But I always knew I was going to leave and go do my own thing. But like from day one, I knew I wanted to be in real estate for some reason. It's really weird.
And that's why you're doing so well.
Yeah. And it's really funny and flattering. And I kind of like, I'm cocky about it, but like a couple people I knew from the military, because I would talk this shit like, look, I'm going to buy rental properties, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And a couple of them people hit me up and they're like, you know, you did all the stuff you said you were going to do. And I'm like, you goddamn right. Now, I don't say that, but like, you know, I say it in my head though. I'm like, yeah, this was the plan. And, you know, I kind of thrive. I have a chip on my shoulder about doing things like the non-traditional way. Mm-hmm. Like I really love, especially now that because I was sacrificing. I didn't make a lot of, like, even now, my gross income isn't even that high, but like the freedom that it affords me to like just do whatever I want, like people are recognizing. And now it's like, oh, maybe like that. Maybe you were right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even at Freedom Mortgage, I tried to like do a revolt. Like I remember. I'm trying to get
like, we're not going to sign this. We're not going to do
We're not doing this because we're like, they promised us like to make way more money.
And they would just change things
situation.
and just be like, yeah, you know.
And I was trying to but you know, people are scared about their livelihoods and all that. So they're not willing to risk it. But I was like, screw it. I'll quit tomorrow.
True. But that does give you more freedom. I definitely feel like I had the biggest elevation of my life like last year when I just quit Toll. It was like,
it's the best.
I had like a random plan, but it wasn't like solid. Like solar was 100% commission, but I was like, I think I can do this. So I just like left this job that everybody wants. And it was like solid. It's like, I'm on the team. It's a New York, New Jersey team. It's like, you're good at this. They were actually they knew I was going to quit. So they kept doing little things like, next thing you know, I'm in the vice president's office, and she's like, I heard you're not happy here. And
wait,
like,
a Toll?
Who told you that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard you're not happy here. What can we do to make you more happy? And I'm like, I'm happy. I'm lying. I know I'm going to quit. So then the senior vice president, he puts like this random like free lunch voucher on my desk. And then like, I heard you're not happy here. What can we do? That's when I said the thing about the money. He's like, oh yeah, no, we looked at the numbers and it's all equal. And I was like,
you know what that made me think of?
What?
The Democratic Party.
That's where you're going.
That's how they treat us.
Is that where you're going today?
That's how they treat us. I try not to do the politics, but that was too good of an example, right? Like, they want to keep you. They value what you're doing for them. Mm-hmm. So they'll give you symbolic gestures that they want you to stay. But if you ask for anything real, a.k.a. pay, they're like, nah.
No, you're right.
How about we like paint some murals on the street? Like, is that good enough?
No, you're totally right. That is true.
I'm not gonna go super into it, but I gotta point that out. Like that's my mind went right there. Like, oh man, that's the DNC. Yes, well, okay, the alternative, blah blah blah.
But that's the thing. There shouldn't be just one other side. That's one thing that my brother is really big on. He's like, there shouldn't just be two options. Like we need to do something so there's not two options. But it's funny because last election he voted for Jill Stein? Well, Jill Stein. So when Trump won, I called him. I was like, "See, this is your fault." And I hung up.
I hate that voter blaming so much.
I only did it once, but it was just too good because he was like, we're going to win PA anyway. Like, he was like, Hillary's going to win PA anyway, but I want to make a symbolic gesture. And then that didn't happen. I died.
Here's the thing. You know whose fault it is that they didn't win?
Who?
The Democrats. It's not the voters' fault. Sorry.
Yeah,
Blame the voters if you want to.
Honestly, even when I voted for her, I did it because it was like, I was not excited. I was just like, I was not for her.
I don't condemn anyone who wants to do the safe way and vote for Biden unenthusiastically. But
settle for Biden.
Settle for Biden 2020. But I just disagree with that strategy. I think that you're going to put the whole movement to sleep. He's saying you don't, but I disagree. And I think that we're going to be in the same predicament 4 years from now.
Yeah, but honestly, I'm just trying to worry about, like building income, building passive income and money so that way it doesn't matter where I am. Like if things go to hell here, I can just be somewhere else. Like I think that a lot of Americans, especially African Americans, I'm not to say that I'm not patriotic, but a lot of us are like really big on like this country, it burns and you burn with it. I'm just like, why? Like you're a human being that can exist somewhere else.
The nationalism, like
it's weird.
It just makes me like people are people.
But it's really like the nationalism is kind of weird. It's like a cult of America. Like I was in like Wildwood with my family on a random Sunday, and they just stopped and did the Pledge of Allegiance. And I was just like,
"Nah, I'm not doing it."
What is going on?
I'm a bit more
being a veteran. Those things make me uncomfortable.
I don't understand. It didn't logically make sense. It was Sunday. It was not a holiday. Nothing, and everybody just stopped. And I was like, this is some weird indoctrination. Like, why do we do this?
Yes.
Is weird and dangerous. And this is the other thing about politics. I think that, I agree that we should be able to just do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We're at a weird point in time. Things are dangerous. Things could actually go.
Don't get me started, Kyle.
That's why I got my daughter's
We're going to
passport.
talk for 3 hours if we talk about this. I don't.
But honestly,
do it.
I feel like I feel that. Like, I got my daughter's passport. And people were like, oh, are you going on a trip? And I was like, no.
Might go to Ghana.
This is just in case we need to flee.
Yeah.
It's a real thing because
I'm laughing, but I'm serious.
No, I will say that, we take democracy for granted. And some people don't like my points when I defend democracy in reference to COVID, because I think that's a thing. But, freedom can disappear.
Yes.
Like this. There's only pieces of paper between freedom and not freedom. So, these things, and it will happen before you know that it happens. So
I feel like it's happening now.
So
it feels like it now.
Yeah, there's certain very scary things going on, and
which is why
we take it for granted. I don't think Biden helps that very much.
But you know what? One of my mentors, just to talk about like the freedom and democracy, one of my mentors was saying today, I was watching something she was doing, and she was like, she's like, my family, we have somewhere to go on every continent. She was like, if something ever happens, like we're good. She's like, Asia, Africa, here, like Europe. She was like, we are a family that's global. Like we're not just set like, okay, this place doesn't serve us. We're not going to, go down with it. She's like, this is not to say like, oh, you shouldn't be American. Like I love being an American. I'm very much an American, and I've definitely known that when I leave.
The ideals, right? Like if we could, things aren't going to be perfect, but let's move towards the idealistic version of America that we're supposed to be living in. That's always my argument, is like we need to live true to.
But how do you get there?
Which is hard to say because, the country is founded with slavery and the Three-Fifths Compromise and all this other stuff. But like, let's go in this direction. You know what I mean? Like let's try to progress, but now we're screwed. Like,
things are just.
Because I had a surreal experience because I went to Rome right before they locked everything down, and I was standing in the Coliseum, and I was looking at, I think it's Emperor's Hill, and there's a couple hills where Caesar used to live, and then like another hill where there's some other important people, and they were talking about how they would come down this road and all this stuff, and I'm just like, this was the dominant country in the world. You know, they had controlled most of Europe, North Africa, you know, close down to the Middle East at some point. And this is all that's left is ruins, and now Italy is just another European country.
Right.
And I'm like,
I think that's going to happen here at some point. I remember saying that to my cousin. She's like, yeah, because in the Bible. I'm like, no, I don't even think it's a religious thing. I'm like,
we just can't get things done.
It's just...
We used to have, we did a space program to the moon, like, and we built Hoover Dam, and we helped win World War II, and now, like, we can't do anything. Like, you know, like, there's no consensus to get anything done, and I think it's just a big problem.
But even so, I feel like as Americans, we can't even compete and kind of, like, grow on, like, a global scale, because so many of us are, like, ignorant of how our own country works and even how the world works. And it's like,
nationalism has dumbed us.
Yeah, it's like the playing field. Yeah. And the playing field is bigger than it. It's not even just about it being great. It's just about knowing that there are other places where you can be. Like,
that exists.
I feel like they don't know that.
And that's what I mean by nationalism. Because nationalism dumbs everybody down, right?
Yeah.
So people, they look at America being great, and they feel like, I'm an American, I'm great, I don't have to worry about that. We're the best country ever. Why would I look at what they're doing? Why would I borrow anything from them when I'm an American?
Yeah.
And that kind of consciousness has been going for a few decades.
And it's a fear, too.
Yeah, it has created a lack of, like, we don't put any more resources in education. Our public education is garbage. Our business growth sector is garbage. Like, everything has been falling apart off of this idea that we're so much better, we don't have to compete. Like, when you're the era you're talking about, where America was doing all these, we were in direct competition with people. Like, why the space race, everyone was working against each other. But now, when you have this idea in your head, like, I already won, we're the best.
Yeah.
You stop doing stuff.
But it's even like a basic fear. Like, I went to this thing called wife school, and like the minister that I mentioned, it's called wife school. But let's go to my point. I went to this thing called wife school. So to like finish off wife school was in Paris, because that's where my mentor lives.
Oh.
And there was a girl, I was going, and there was another woman who was supposed to be coming with me. Like, we're coordinating, like, oh, your flight lands here, my flight lands here. Like, let's get a taxi together, blah, 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 blah. So, you know, I get to Paris. I talked to her the day before. I get there. I'm, like, sitting down. I turn on my phone, get the Wi-Fi. I'm eating whatever French thing I'm eating. And then my mentor was like, oh, you can just come. She's not coming. And I was like, did she miss her flight? Like, she's coming later? And then she was like, I just got so scared. I never left the country, and you know, I just couldn't do it. And I'm just like,
oh my goodness.
What? And then somebody was like, well, why didn't you talk to her the night before? I said, who would think that somebody would be afraid to get on a plane
to Paris?
Like, I couldn't even fathom this fear that she had. And then my mentor said that there were a lot of people who had like never left the country. And this woman always talked about how well traveled she was because she'd been all around the country, and she'd gotten on planes all over the country. But like, she could not. She's like, she paid for the flight and the rest of like everything. And she just didn't come.
That's hard to understand. But, you know,
but it's a thing.
We see it a lot, actually. But travel is probably one of the best things you can do for, like, your mind.
Back to what you're saying, you know, I know a lot of people who, like, especially black people in inner cities, they never leave
They don't leave the city.
Yeah.
leave their city. Like, forget the country.
Right.
They don't leave their, like, you know, we're all thinking, like, well, why? But, like, I remember I was with a kid, and he was like, we're driving through Philly, and we got, where did we go? Like, just to downtown Philly, and he was like, oh, it's so nice down here. I'm like, bro, you live in Philadelphia, in the district, like, you got to see more. Like, they don't know,
And, you know, because when you go to different places, you see that you can live differently.
I think that's what it is.
And even, like, when you go outside the country, there's other ways of living that are different, but you can take parts of you know, like,
right.
Other things exist. Like, your morality, your culture is not the only thing that exists.
Right. And they think that foreigners are like these people that are not people. Like they don't understand
That's
foreigners.
nuts.
And it's like there's a base level humanity that everyone has.
That's
like,
a very
why do you
American
not
thing.
realize that. Yeah.
Because
I
in Europe, people can speak other languages. They interact with people from different countries. The cultures are different. And so I don't know what we're going to do about that. We don't even learn world history. Like if you ask someone where France is on a map, they really won't know where it is, which is very disappointing.
Right. But black people are like that too. Like,
yeah, oh, for sure. Even
I
worse.
feel like I've burst people's bubbles because there was this girl. She was online, Facebook, making like this romanticized version of like, if I wasn't taken from Africa, where would I be? Was I Zulu? She was saying all these places, and I was like, no, you weren't Zulu. Like we weren't taking from South Africa. And she's like, well, what I mean is we don't know. I said, well, I mean, we do know. There's certain things that
you're not from Southeast Africa.
Yes, you're not from all of Africa. Like, no, you weren't from one of these countries.
Right.
Yeah, they're like, I'm like, there are 54. Yeah, so it's like that idea of like not knowing where France is. They don't know where, like, okay, slaves were mostly taken from certain places. Like this is why that person from Nigeria kind of looks like your uncle. Like, and that guy from Ethiopia doesn't look like your uncle. Yes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a reason for these things.
Yeah, we just got to learn. I don't know. It's tough.
And then that whole thing, this sounds bad too. Damn. It comes back to that thing of like how people think and not even intelligence. It's more like, what is
open-mindedness?
Yeah, that
I call it intellectual curiosity. Yeah, but some people don't want to be exposed.
It depends on when it starts. Like, and this is why I'm very interested in, like, this is why I'm very interested in how your guests get to the point, because, I think if you're a kid and you're exposed to like different ethnicities, different mindsets, different experiences, then you're more open and you're more curious.
That's a really good point.
But if you're boxed in, like
you get used to not being like new information becomes hostile to you.
Right.
Yeah.
It becomes scary. Like, when you're like, if you don't know something, you like there's a fear of it. You're like, oh.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think that happened to me in college. I think that happened in college for me. Like,
what do you mean?
Learning about different. So this is the weirdest thing. Like before college, I didn't really think about other black people. Like this is one thing that I kind of gets on my nerves about African Americans nowadays when we talk about like things on a global scale. We tend to be very American because we center everything around ourselves. Like when we think of black people, we're talking about us, like period. Nobody else can be black. It's crazy.
Yeah. Like Africans or not now as much, but growing up, definitely
it's not even just Africans. It was like Africans, Jamaicans, Caribbeans. If you're from Belize, if you're from Brazil, like if you're Dominican, like the thought of somebody else being black.
Dominicans and Haitians are
different
is the
it blows. Yeah, that's crazy. But like African Americans, we like tend to think we're the only black people. So when somebody says the black experience, you center yourself.
Yeah,
and like I remember somebody got mad. They're like, I'm in Ghana and these people don't know anything about slavery. Like how horrible. And I'm like, do you know anything about Ghana? No.
Right.
And you're there. They didn't come to your country. You came to theirs, and you're mad that they don't know your history, that they didn't teach it in their schools. Like, they didn't know based like, slaves. But you expect them to know all of this stuff about you, but you don't know anything about their country, and you went there. It's very American.
I had a weird because France has an interesting dynamic with that, because they have, but they're multicultural. But talking to a few people, like they would consider themselves French before they would they don't really say like I'm black or I'm African. They're just French, which is an interesting like psychological thing going on with that. But also
because French treats them like they're black.
Well, yeah, like
I disagree with that whole
and then another thing was like it was so weird when we went to Italy. Everyone spoke French to us initially. Like they thought we were French. I don't know why that was.
I don't know. But so I went into college, like kind of just thinking like that, like blackness is blackness. So I get there and like I said, I went to a top college. So when you go to higher level colleges, that's when you meet different black people, especially. Right. Like then I'm meeting people who are from Cameroon. This is people from, different places in Africa, different places in South America, everywhere, because this is like a top school and people want to go here. So it's like my friends and I have like a core group of girlfriends and like, a couple of us are African American, one's Dominican, one's Bayesian, one's from Cameroonian, she's half Cameroonian and half Ghanaian. So it's like we're all in this group, and it's because like everybody at my school, we didn't have the luxury of separating into cultures. Right. It was like we're all the black kids sitting at the table, and this black kid is half South African and half white, and this black kid is Ethiopian, and this black kid. So it's like our classmates who were mostly white, like they didn't know that we had totally different cultural backgrounds and experiences. Like I remember us having a conversation, like the race conversation we had to have, and I was trying to explain that there are different kinds of black people, and like that blanket African American term may not necessarily be correct, and they didn't get it. Meanwhile, I'm talking with another girl, and she's Jamaican with a whole Jamaican accent, and they still wanted to call her African American. I'm like, she's not American. It was the weirdest thing, but I think that was when my mind opened even to the different types of blackness, because there were so many different kinds of people with totally different experiences.
That's a good point.
But they looked like me. So that was kind of when I started.
And the culture's completely, well, not completely, but very different. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are some things that kind of connect through, but yeah.
There are some things.
The hatred of us by white people.
Or even the lateness thing. I don't know what that is.
Colorism.
That seems to be a colored thing. Like we can't be on time for stuff.
Lateness?
I try really hard. Like they call it African time. And then like when I was in Brazil, I was in Bahia, which is mostly black. And it's like I remember our friend's like, yeah, meet me here at 2:30. So I got there at 2:30. And he's like, I called him. He's like, oh yeah, I just got out of the shower. And I'm like, what?
I heard about that.
He just thought it was like,
yeah, it's
what?
like that.
Like, why are you so rigid on like the time structure? I was like, what is this? But that's a weird thing. I'm like, is there a reason for this?
My question is, for someone, a young person or someone interested in real estate, what would you say? How do you think being a loan officer is? And then also, what's a good way to get started? Like, how would you define the role? Like, because people don't know. Like, if you Google, hey, what's a loan officer? I'd be unsatisfied with the answer. Like, what is a role? Like, what is a loan officer?
So I think a lot of people, they think that it's the same as like a realtor. Like, they'll think that it's the same. And it's actually one of my pet peeves. I hate real estate agents who think they're loan officers. Like, I can't stand it. Like, it drives me crazy. But anyway, so people will be like, oh, you're a loan officer. How much do you think I can sell my house for? I'm like, I don't know anything about real estate. So it's basically like, if you don't have the money to buy your house, you would connect with a loan officer who's going to help you to like get a loan to buy the house. So I feel like that's the very base level idea of what it is, of where to start.
What's the day-to-day
of being a loan officer?
Yeah.
The day-to-day for me right now, since we're in a mortgage boom, is honestly, I am looking for refinance customers for the most part. But then I have people who are looking to buy, because right now people are taking advantage of it. So those people tend to come to me like through referrals or everywhere else. So I mainly spend like the beginning of my day working on the files that I currently have, like getting questions answered, getting documents out, trying to get people clear to close, so that way they can close on their refinance, get their cash, or like buy their house. And then maybe the middle of my day is spent trying to get new business. So it's like building new relationships, new conversations. And I've noticed that.
How? What do you do?
So it's a lot of cold calling, I guess you would call it that.
You're a cold caller.
I guess you would call it that, but I'm really successful at that. I can build relationships pretty quickly with people over the phone. And kind of like, not always, but I'm pretty good with trying to say like, okay, I'm a resource for you if you're looking to do this, especially right now. People are seeing commercials about refinancing. They're like, oh my gosh, should I do this? Or about buying a house. Oh my goodness, this is a good idea. So it's like, I call you and I'm like, I recognize I totally called you out of the blue. So let me send you my contact information. You can look me up. Here's my license number. So it's like, I'm building those base relationships, asking those questions, like I said, and kind of talking to people and getting them to a place where, I might have a really good deal for them. I do notice, though, that depending on the borrower, there are different conversations and different levels of like getting them to even doing a base application. With conventional customers who tend to be a little bit more savvy, not necessarily real estate or savvy, but more money savvy. Mm. So it's like, even though they don't know any of these mortgage terms, they know if that's a terrible deal. Like, why would I do that?
Right.
These closing costs are XYZ amount. Why would that make sense? So I think that for them, it's a lot more like building relationships. That first call might be, hey, here's who I am, introduce myself. I'm a broker, essentially, so I work for you. It's not me just trying to get you through whatever company you're with. If I have a deal that's better someplace else, I can do that too. So it's like me kind of building that relationship, and then it's usually the second or the third call where I actually get the deal. VA borrowers are a lot more trusting. It's kind of weird. I'm glad that I'm not a scammer because sometimes I'm like, let me back you up. They're like, okay, let's do it. I'm like, wait, let me tell you more. Before you're just ready to give me all your information, you don't know anything. I'm gonna send you an email. Like you can look me up, make sure I'm legit. Let's see if this makes sense, and then we can go and do all that stuff. So my day-to-day basically right now is a lot of different stuff. I don't thrive well in places where it's very much like bing, same thing, bing, same thing, bing, same thing. Then my mind is gone. So I like the fact that my day is a little bit more mixed up, different kinds of people, different kinds of things. If it depends on what time of the month it is, I might be doing something more than I'm doing some other thing. So, and apparently we're starting to grow a little bit more. So I might be more, trying to build our company. So another thing that I like about where I am now is it's very transparent. Like I don't feel like I'm getting screwed over. I know how much the company's making on a deal that I make. I know how much I make in relative to the company. Mm-hmm. It's not like, oh, they just made $100,000 off you and they gave you $200. Here you go. Like right. It's not like that. So, and it's also a lot of effort being put on building our company culture and like building our processes. So it really is like, all right, figure it out, taking initiative. How can I get around this problem? So it's a lot of problem solving. That's
good for smart people. That's what I realize is like if you put smart people in a position to like flex different parts of their intellect, it's very helpful, right? That's the only type of position I think I could, like where I had the freedom to make choices and figure things out. Because if you just make me do a task over and over again, I'm going to be like, oh.
But it's also a mindset shift because I feel like for me, like I'm at a position right now I feel like I'm doing really well. Like I'm probably making more than I've ever made.
Hey.
But it was a mind shift change. If I would have stayed the way that I was when I came in, like used to just being told, I would not be doing that well. Because at first I wasn't doing that well. I was just like, okay, time to go home. And I'm going to come back tomorrow and not do much of anything, which is what I was doing before. But
so at this company, so there's different ways to be a loan officer. So you could be at a call center where all the leads get fed to you, or you have to cold call, or you can be like, I guess, out on the street where you're kind of independent and you just, whatever you can get, like whatever leads you generate is how you get it. How's your place?
A mixture of both. So it's like my boss gets us leads, but it's not like internal kind of leads because we don't have an internal source. Right. So it's like I'm not supposed to tell, like I can't tell how we get our leads. It's like one of our things. But the point is I get leads from, it's not generated in the traditional way. Like we don't have a big company. Like, at Freedom, it was like, these are Freedom leads. Mm-hmm. Or like, this is some company that we work with Aquin. And you're like, hi, I'm from Freedom. We're working with Aquin. It's not like that. Mm-hmm. It really is like somebody reaching out to you in the street. Like, hey, Ryan, you don't know who the hell I am. And no, I don't work for the company that you work for, but I might know who the company is that you have. And I can say, hey, I can get you this deal. You may talk to this person. So it's like knowing how things work. And I think that it's really big, kind of knowing how other mortgage companies work. Like you're like, okay, you probably used to work with a call center. You try to call your loan officer again, you can't get them again. And they're like, yeah, they already pushed me around. I'm like, I'll be your one-point person of contact. Like you have my cell number. It's very personalized. So it's like, if you have questions, I can answer it. If you want to text me at 8 p.m., I might not get back to you, but you can text me and you don't have to worry about, I didn't see it, and I'll get back to you the next day. So it's a little bit more personalized. That thing about like, tell me your story and I can see what I can do for you. So it's like they get that broker experience, but I can still do things at those big companies. So I can take their loan to that big company and I'm still their loan officer there. I'm just like the go-between. Right. So I think it's a mixture of both. So I do think that me having the call center experience and then the not call center experience at Toll Brothers, because it wasn't call center, it kind of gave me a better idea a better way to kind of deal with where I am now. I don't feel like, what the hell's going on? What am I going to do? Because I recognize this is a startup.
Yeah. So.
We kind of got to come up with the solutions, and this will be the template for the company. And it's like realizing that is a little hard. It's also a little scary because you can very much not make, like, it's not like freedom where, you got your $30,000 base to fall back on. I don't really have a huge base to fall back on. I can't.
Yeah, so how do you feel about that? So in the loan officer world, there's like two models where you can have a higher base salary where you get like a normal paycheck, and then your commission is much lower per deal. Or you could go somewhere where it's up to 100% commission and then a low base salary, and then you get a big commission on each deal that you do. What are your thoughts on
I think that if you're competent, you should definitely take the deal where you have less base salary and more of a commission because you're going to do better.
And this is coming from someone, you're a single mom, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's because the big argument there is like, that's risky for people.
Yeah, but like that higher base makes you lazy. Sounds bad. It does though. Like I remember feeling that feeling of like, you kind of lose that like drive of like. I used to think that being a loan officer at first, I thought it was kind of fun. Like it was like, all right, I got this. I can do this. I can do that. I can get this done. And then when you get to the point where you're just getting the base, it's kind of like, I met my numbers. I'm good. I'm going to bed. Like I'm going to go do whatever. Like it's like you don't have any ownership either. It's just like. Whatever. You let things fall through. You don't really care that much. But it's like you get more out of it when you're putting more into it. And then you even get more like referrals and things like that. And you just kind of do better. And also when there's more risk, there's typically more reward. So when you're at those companies where you're getting a lower base, you're typically getting way more commission because it was more work to get to where you got. And you get a better reward for it. And if you're competent, you shouldn't be afraid of it. But I've definitely had that moment where I had to like talk to myself, like even when I entered this company, when I said it was a mind shift change, I had to like say, you've talked to, financial advisors of people who had $1 million and you felt really comfortable in that conversation. You talked to people who were CEOs of multiple companies and they called you for advice. Like I had to psych myself out a lot to even be like
that imposter syndrome.
It was big. And even like when I got this car, I had to like be like, this is actually not a crazy thing. I initially, when I got this nicer car, I was trying to give myself a mind shift change and like, test drive. And then I was like, I'll let them tell me the numbers for fun. Cause I was like, I'm not buying this. Like, I'm not buying this car. I just was like, listening. Oh yeah, great. I got to think about it. I wasn't.
Just for context, PK pulled up in the Porsche Cayenne.
Yeah.
It's a Cayenne.
It's
SUV?
a Macan, actually, that one.
Macan?
Yeah.
SUV. That was very clean.
And I had like a Sonata before. Like I always got the cheapest
so similar.
car ever. Because I was always like, I don't want a high payment or I want to just pay it off. Like my payments were like under $200.
It's funny, and maybe you feel the same way. So I just bought the Tesla Model S, 2017, so not brand new, so some financial education
Smarts there,
a
Mine's
little
2018.
bit. So when I went to pick it up, they have contactless delivery.
Mm-hmm.
So like we went up there, Kyle drove me up there, and they just unlocked the car from like inside, and they honk the horn, and you just get in and you sign the documents. But when I got in, I was like, I didn't feel like I even belonged in the car. It was so nice. I've never had a nice car. Before that, I had a 2012 Jetta that, just super regular.
Yeah.
Payment was under $200 a month.
Yeah.
Paid it off recently. But I was in the car. I was literally shaking a little bit. I was like, I do not belong in this car.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't believe this. I didn't want to touch anything.
Yeah.
Like, it was a really strange experience. But going to what you kind of were saying is like, I'm getting into this phase where I want to actually enjoy like what I'm doing, and I don't know, like, what's the point of having the money for no reason,
Yeah.
So I really identify with what you're saying about the car.
And I've had that moment too with everything. Even when I went to test drive the car, they were just like, here. And I was like,
I could do this.
You're just going to give me the keys?
Porsche.
And then she's like, yeah, like I took it for like, I went to my mom's house. I was like driving my mom around. I was like, and I was expecting her to like call me, like, where are you with the car? Like nobody called me.
How long have you had it?
I just got it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we got our car.
That's why I said when he asked that question, I knew I was about to buy this car next week. So I don't think I answered. I might have said something, but I didn't say, oh, you should buy the house. I was just like,
oh, y'all stunning.
Oh.
Yeah, I bought a new car this year too. I got myself a nice Mitsubishi 2019.
Nice.
No, don't say nice to me. Y'all out here with the Porsches and the Teslas.
But yeah, even when I got, like, my dad took me to get the car. Even when I was like signing, I thought they were going to be like, I called the car finance company. I was like, are you sure? Like, you said that I'm approved, and like I didn't send you anything. And they were like, yeah, we did this background check. And I'm like, And it said Centric Mortgage. It said Precious Mortgage. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, they're like, you can get approved for more. I was like, no, it's okay. I don't need any more. But I was like, I don't want to go there tomorrow and I get embarrassed because they're like, yeah, no, they had the wrong stuff.
I was shaking in my boots the whole time. They said the loan was approved. I'm like, this shit ain't approved. I'm like, this shit is almost
right now. Y'all talk about it.
I was like, this shit almost $800 a month. This is, and the whole time I'm like guilting myself because buying a car is not like, buying this kind of car is like, it's a luxury. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like it you know, I fought with myself the whole time because I'm like, you know, I could use this money, you know, to buy another rental property. I could, like, there's all kinds of other stuff that I could do. But well, first my car broke down. And for like years, I've been saying I'm going to buy a Tesla when my car breaks down.
Yeah.
But I felt guilty the whole time because it goes against everything that I believe financially to buy a luxury item like that. But at some point, you do have to enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm actually happy. I did it so far. I've had the car for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm still really happy with it, but it was nerve-wracking.
Yeah, you're right. And I had that same experience. Like, I don't usually buy expensive things. My brother's like, what else do you buy expensive? Because I was like, I don't buy luxury items. I'm not one of those girls that has like those fancy bags. I can't do it. I don't have $1,000 shoes. My brother's like, what else do you buy that's expensive besides cars? But even when I got the car, I was like, okay, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to wait a couple months. Like, I had this plan of like November, and then I'm going to do it. And my boss was like, just buy the car. And I was like,
that's what people did to me. They were like, just do it.
Yeah, I was also the only one in the office without a nice car. Like, Alexis will make fun of me.
We were going to a video shoot when his car broke down.
Really?
Yeah.
I was like, as soon as I saw him, I was like, it's Tesla time. It's Tesla season. As soon as I pulled up. Because he always said that. And then he's like, I don't know. I'm like, stop it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
But I realized I've had imposter syndrome pretty much with every elevation that I've had. Like, even, like I said, when I went to college, I went to this not so great school, Elevation, and I'm like, how'd I get in here? Like, my dean was like, no, we picked you on purpose. Like, this, I felt like, how'd I slip through the cracks? It was like, no, this is where you're supposed to be. So anytime I do something, I'm like, how'd I get here? They're like, oh, you should do this leadership thing. And I'm like, why are you asking me? And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like,
do you have that? Because I feel the same way. But it's weird. I feel both ways at the same time.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I know what you mean.
I know I'm fucking good at this shit. But at the same time, I'm like,
yeah,
really?
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I don't know what that is. I don't know.
How do I think two opposite things at the same time?
I don't know. But you're right. It's the same. It's the same thing. I'm like, yeah, no, I do belong here. But how did I? Is this mine? And my dad's like, you deserve this. And I'm like, yeah. Wait, do I? Because you've really sacrificed. I'm like, yeah, I did sacrifice.
Right.
So here we are. Things are moving forward.
Do you have anything that you want to tell the people? Any advice?
I would say that in terms of that imposter syndrome, I think that it's important to kind of just go for things that you want to do and like look into it. Because I feel like even when we're talking about like real estate and buying houses, I think that one of the benefits for me for being a loan officer, even like without the career part, is it made me see that this is not a big deal. Like, it's a big deal because it's like a major purchase when you buy a house, but it's not that daunting. Like, it's something that has a step-by-step process and someone can guide you through it.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
Nothing's really a big deal. Like building a rocket ship, it's still the same tasks that everyone does for everything. Like, yeah, it's complicated or whatever, but if you know the stuff, then you just do it, you know?
Yeah.
Nothing probably feels like a giant feat.
But it feels like it for some people, though. Like, even while they're doing it, they're like, just like we talked about when people are like, oh, they gave me this house. Like, this is where I should stay. It's like.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
They feel like I never want to do that again. Like, that's actually one of the things I say. Like, when I'm talking to people about refis.
It's just papers and conversations, though. You know,
yeah,
like when
it really is.
I guess this is my military. Like, from being in Iraq is like, really, like a mortgage is hard. Like, let's have perspective about like things. You know, like.
Yeah.
All you're doing is sending some documents and answering some questions, really. You know what I mean?
For some people, it really is like
it's daunting.
It's it.
Yeah.
And that's like one of the things I talk about when I'm doing like refis. I'm like, it's not going to be like, I'll be here step by step. If you have questions, let me know. That kind of makes people feel like, okay, I've been wanting to do this, but this is so daunting. And I felt like last time I was like left alone and I didn't know what was going on. So it's like,
Right.
reach out, see if you can get things done, regardless if it's a house, if it's buying a luxury car. Like, if it makes sense, then you should go for it. And I'm not saying if you're making like, $1,000 a month, like you should spend your $700 on a car. Like, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if it seems feasible, like, go for it. You don't have to let things kind of stop you because it seems daunting. There's always avenues of trying to like, see if you can get to that next point of elevation, and don't stop yourself. I feel like
That's
sometimes, like mentally, that's why I said it's a mind shift change. Mentally, sometimes we keep ourselves at certain levels. When it's time to move up, just do it. Just do it.
True. Just do it. That's what I always say.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure. I did pretty good, I think. This was a good conversation. I was worried not having Jess, my co-host, here, and you made that very helpful.
Thank you.
I think this was a great conversation. I hope that people learn a lot. If you have feedback for us, we're still working on the format. So let me know how it goes. If you have comments for Precious, or if you need a mortgage and you're in the area, hit her up. I'll put her information in the description box. See you guys.
Bye.